of IRS Criminal Investigation, and Stephen Schrank, Special Agent in Charge, Homeland Security Investigations. We're here today to announce the return and unsealing of indictments charging a combined group of 10 defendants in connection with drug trafficking and money laundering offenses, including by members of 2 Mexico-based cartels, namely the La Nueva Familia Mexicana and Jalisco New Generation cartels. Today is an important day for the Department of Justice, the citizens of the Northern District of Georgia, and for the American people in our common fight to combat the flood of deadly drugs across our borders into the United States. It is also an important day for the citizens of Mexico who are terrorized daily by the violence unleashed by these cartels. More information about these matters will be included in lengthy press releases we will publish this afternoon. With regard to the first indictment, in the matter of United States versus siblings Johnny Arato Olescalaga and Jose Alfredo Olescalaga, earlier this year, the U.S. Department of State announced the designation of La Nueva Familia cartel as a foreign terrorist organization and specially designated global terrorist. Johnny Arato and Jose Arato, better known by the aliases El Pez and El Fesca, respectively, are alleged co-leaders and co-founder of La Nueva Familia and responsible for the cartel's resurgence in the past decade or so. Now, these brothers were charged by a federal grand jury in the Northern District of Georgia with various crimes related to the manufacture, distribution, and importation of massive quantities of heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl into the United States. Their indictments and warrants for their arrest were returned in September 2024 and just unsealed. Prior to his indictment, Johnny Arato was designated as a Consolidated Priority Organizational Target, or CPOT, by the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force program, given the cartel's reach into various cities across this country, including right here in Atlanta. Both Arato brothers are fugitives believed to be residing in Mexico. The Department of Justice is pleased to have worked in close coordination with partner agencies, including the U.S. Department of State and the U.S. Department of the Treasury, in responding to La Nueva Familia's criminal conduct. The State Department has announced rewards offers of up to $5 million and $3 million for information leading to the arrest of Johnny Arato and Jose Arato, respectively. It is our hope that these multi-million-dollar rewards will encourage people to come forward with what they know about their Arato brothers, both here in the United States and in cities and towns in Mexico, who are most impacted by the cartel's violence. And the Department of Treasury is continuing to impose OFAC sanctions against more of the cartel members, including new sanctions against 2 more Arato siblings, Ubaldo Arato and Adita Arato. Now, the second indictment I want to talk about today is in the case of United States versus Sandra Beatriz Hernandez Choel et al. It was returned by the grand jury on April 1, 2025, just 2 weeks ago, and it was just unsealed. Now, this indictment charges 7 individuals in Georgia and Mexico for operating a drug trafficking and money laundering ring tied to a Mexico-based trafficker. 5 of these defendants, all of Norcross, Georgia, Sandra Beatriz Hernandez Choel, Karina Beatriz Perez Hernandez, Deva Miranda Venue, Jerome Lewis, and Irving Joel Hernandez, were arrested earlier today in a coordinated effort by the Drug Enforcement Administration, Internal Revenue Service, Criminal Investigation, and state and local law enforcement. In September 2024, the DEA and law enforcement uncovered a scheme involving drug traffickers delivering bulk currency from drug sales to a middleman in Norcross. The middleman then allegedly delivered the drug proceeds to defendants Sandra Chalil and her daughter Karina Perez, who then allegedly laundered the proceeds as directed by a Mexico-based trafficker. Chalil and Perez allegedly operated a money service business in Norcross called La Pulga Esperanza. During the investigation, the DEA and law enforcement identified several alleged traffickers who transported the drug proceeds to Norcross, including defendants Vandelay, Jerome Lewis, and Irving Hernandez. The DEA also identified one of the primary traffickers as being a member and or associate of the Jalisco New Generation cartel. Additionally, as alleged in the indictment, some of the traffickers also possessed methamphetamine and fentanyl that they intended to deliver and distribute on behalf of this drug trafficking ring. Now, agents with the Internal Revenue Service Criminal Investigations analyzed the money service business's transactions and determined that the cash was wired to Mexico, but was transferred in small increments as to not raise suspicion by federal regulators. During an approximate period of 2 months, these individuals allegedly laundered over $1 million in drug proceeds smuggled to Mexico. Members of the public are reminded that the indictments contain only charges. The defendants are presumed innocent of the charges, and it will be the government's burden to prove the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt at trial. Our office is very appreciative of the tremendous work of our law enforcement partners and the assistant U.S. attorneys assigned to these cases, who all put in long hours to ensure that justice is served. At this time, I'd like to welcome DEA Acting Special Agent in Charge, Jay Chung.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today. I want to begin by thanking the men and women of the DA's Atlanta Field Division for their extraordinary efforts, as well as our dedicated federal, state, and local partner agencies that have joined us today. I also want to recognize our partners at the Department of State, Department of Treasury, specifically Office of Foreign Assets Control, United States Attorney's Office, and the Office of International Affairs. Today, we are announcing the results of 2 significant investigations that represent a turning point in our fight against transnational criminal organizations. These cases, Operation Diablos Rojos and Operation Blue Majou, better known as Blue Magic, demonstrates our ability to leverage every tool in the federal arsenal to attack and dismantle dangerous drug trafficking and money laundering networks operating in the United States and abroad. For the first time, these cases involve the indictments and OFAC sanctions linked to an organization now designated a foreign terrorist organization. The FTO designation of La Nueva Familia Michoacan, a violent cartel operating in the United States to include here in Atlanta and across more than 35 cities and towns in Mexico. The FTO designation has allowed law enforcement to apply enhanced counterterrorism authorities to drug cartel operations, something we believe that will have a greater impact in the fight to protect our communities. Through targeted investigations, our team uncovered over $2.2 million in laundered drug proceeds, seized 30 pounds of fentanyl, thousands of fake pills laced with fentanyl and xylazine, known as tranq, methamphetamine, firearms, and uncovered a criminal infrastructure that includes licensed money service business operating here locally, who are funneling drug proceeds directly back to cartel leaders in Mexico. In the past 24 hours, DEA and our partners have seized over 100 pounds of fentanyl, $300,000 of suspected drug proceeds, guns, and made 22 arrests, 11 of which are illegal criminals. To be clear, we're using every authority, every partner, every resource available to keep those dangerous networks out of our neighborhood and our country. This success is about partnerships across federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. And it's about sending a clear message. If you traffic fentanyl, methamphetamine, other illicit and dangerous drugs, or launder drug proceeds, or work with the cartels, we will hold you accountable. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Schrank. I'm the Special Agent in charge of Homeland Security Investigations for the state of Georgia. I'd like to thank you for coming this afternoon. And on behalf of Homeland Security Investigations, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about this important event and the results that the men and women of federal, state, and local law enforcement are achieving together. Today, we're here to highlight a critical operation that demonstrates the power of coordinated law enforcement action and HSI's unwavering commitment to working together to take down the most dangerous criminal networks operating in these very communities we live in. Since July of 2021, HSI Atlanta, in close coordination with DEA Atlanta and other partners, launched an investigation targeting the leadership of La Nueva Familia Michoacan, a violent and deeply entrenched Mexican drug cartel. This case, approved under the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, was known as Operation Diablos Rojas, and it focused not only on the drugs, but on the people pulling the strings domestically and abroad. As a result of this investigation, two key cartel leaders, Johnny Hurtado Escada, known as Pez, and Jose Alfredo Hurtado Escada, known as Fresa, were designated by the U.S. Department of Treasury's Office of Foreign Asset Control. Pez was also named as a Consolidated Priority Organizational Target, a CPOT, one of the most significant criminal targets in the federal system. These men were directing the movement of heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, and fentanyl into the United States, while coordinating how drug proceeds would make their way back to Mexico. Thanks to this joint operation, these financial networks and the leadership structures are now disrupted, and due to the announcement of these rewards, we hope to gather further information to bring them to face justice here in the United States. But this investigation wasn't just about stacking up seizures. It was about taking out the decision makers. That shift in strategy, backed by the leadership of HSI, of DEA, and the U.S. Attorney's Office here in the Northern District, is what has made this operation so successful. In November of last year, we saw one example of the success. HSI, DEA, Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office, and our partners arrested an LFM member operating a meth lab in Lawrenceville, Georgia. That single enforcement action led to the seizure of over 100 kilograms of methamphetamine, heroin, and fentanyl. And then just 2 months ago, as you've heard, the Department of State took an unprecedented step of designating La Nueva Familia Michoacan as a foreign terrorist organization, leveraging the full breadth of the United States government to attack this cartel's assets, its leadership, and bring those that wish to poison our communities to justice. This speaks volumes about the level of threat and the seriousness that federal law enforcement is taking this, as well as highlighting the impact we've made. HSI will continue to work side by side with our federal, state, and local partners to go after the top levels of these criminal organizations. We will be relentless in that pursuit, and we are united in that purpose. Together, we will keep driving these threats out of our communities. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Demetrius Hardiman, Special Agent in Charge, IRS Criminal Investigation, Atlanta Field Office. I'm proud to be here with our partners in announcing charges against 7 individuals for their alleged role in a scheme to launder drug trafficking proceeds. With our partners at the Drug Enforcement Administration, we uncovered a complex money laundering scheme in which alleged drug trafficking proceeds were sent to Mexican co-conspirators in a series of small transactions, a common ploy used by third-party money launderers to hide the origins and destinations of their funds. This tactic is called microstructuring. In this case, through a series of sophisticated investigative steps, our special agents observed the defendant sending money to a location in Mexico during a specific time range. Third-party money launderers are critical players in drug trafficking organizations. They create layers of transactions, shell businesses, and other efforts to attempt to obscure their illicit activities in a cloak of anonymity. As special agents of IRS criminal investigation, our job is to peel back those layers and uncloak their secret actions. In this case, drug trafficking proceeds were funneled through money services businesses to appear legitimate. The defendants used Atlanta area remittance businesses that look legitimate on the surface to move drug money across borders. It goes without saying that money is the lifeblood of drug trafficking organizations. They exist for no other reason. When we take out their financial infrastructure, we effectively end their operations, which has benefits that reverberate deep into the community. By breaking up these networks, we are not only removing criminals from our streets, but we are stymieing the tide of addiction and overdose and ending the cycle of violence and chaos intrinsically tied to drug trafficking organizations. So the core of our efforts is about protecting communities. It's about making sure criminal enterprises cannot profit in the shadows while wreaking havoc in our communities and diminishing the quality of life for law-abiding citizens. If nothing else, this takedown reminds us that crime leaves a financial footprint, and no one follows the money trail better than IRS criminal investigation. The successful outcome today should serve as a warning to those who believe they can outsmart the system. We will find you, we will uncover your trail, and we will hold you accountable. Thank you.
Take some questions.
Jay, can you tell us anything about where these businesses were in Norcross and how many were involved?
So we know of one business that was mentioned earlier that was involved, operated by Sandra Hernandez. It was a money service business that's particularly funneling money to the 2 organizations down in Mexico, La Firma Michoacan and CJNG.
Are these businesses that law-abiding citizens also use? Like, were they operating undercover with actual other customers coming and going?
So that is part of the operation of and how they conduct their business and operations, right? They want to stay under the radar, and so yeah, although they take in regular customers, but make no mistake, bulk of their business is done for drug trafficking and drug traffickers, which is coordinated through a person in Mexico that instructed the business to take particular people coming in their proceeds that would be drug trafficking proceeds.
What kind of businesses was it that Sandra operated?
It's a money service business.
What was it called again?
Is it La Esperanza? I believe so.
So, are we talking about actually bringing in
Bulk currency, right?
pounds of cash, or how
Well,
does that
so it would be what we call smurfing, right? They would do it under a certain threshold to avoid filings, right, to the IRS, and so they would just bring, a lot of people would bring in small amounts of bulk currency to the business to be laundered to Mexico.
and then those small amounts would be
Of course,
sent out?
I believe in a year's time, it was millions of dollars
In a year's time?
in a year's time.
How can you describe what a small amount would be?
So a small amount would be something under $10,000, right? It could be anything from, $2,000 to $5,000 to $8,000-$9,000. And once you pass the $10,000 threshold, there's certain reportings that money service businesses and banks and financial institutions have to file, and so they're trying to stay under the radar, so they won't have to file those type of the banks or transactions, or they won't have to be filed. So this is the 100 pounds of fentanyl in the brown packaging that I spoke about earlier. And then obviously you see approximately $300,000 in drug proceeds, suspected drug proceeds that we seized throughout last night and today. And yeah, there's guns, and there's some jewelry in there as well.
What's the significance about that fentanyl?
Fentanyl, that's over 100 pounds of fentanyl, so around 47 kilos, right? So that's about 23.5 million lives that we saved. Very significant.
The FTO designation, are we going to see this going forward with more cartel players?
So as you know, 6 of the cartels, major cartels, have been named foreign terrorist organizations. And so moving forward, yes, we will work with the Attorney's Office and our federal and local state partners to ensure that those people that the designations are warranted, that we'll move forward accordingly.
Is this money angle sort of new to the layer of investigations that DEA does? Can you tell us if this is, has this been going on and we didn't really know about it? This sort of investigation of that part, the money part?
Well, IRS criminal investigation, yes. IRS criminal investigation has a long history with all of our federal partners in working the financial angles of a myriad of crimes, one of which being drug trafficking. This has been a partnership that's been longstanding and will continue.
We certainly are hopeful, based on the amounts of the rewards, that we're going to get help from the citizens to locate these individuals. These cases rely upon our assistance from our foreign partners, assistance from others to be successful. And so by announcing these rewards, we're very hopeful that these defendants will be brought to justice.
Do you guys believe that these La Squadra men are in Mexico now?
They are believed to be in Mexico, yes.
What about the possible fears of people who might know where they are but might be too afraid to actually come forward?
Yeah, all I could tell you is they're believed to be in Mexico, and by announcing these awards for $8 million combined, $5 million for one of the defendants and $3 million for the other, we are hopeful that they will be brought to justice, and brought to justice soon. As I've said, these operations rely upon assistance from our foreign partners. Okay, thank you.
When you speak of money services, are you talking like Western Union, MoneyGram, and things like that? How do you know if it's a regular person instead of showing as part of the
Yes, when we're talking about a wire remittance service, it's the ones that you guys see that we see on every corner every day. As far as how we know how people are utilizing those services for nefarious actions, oftentimes it's what they don't do. They don't fill out the requisite paperwork when it's over a certain dollar amount. They don't put a lot of identifying information so that we know exactly who is sending the money and where it's going. So IRS criminal investigation, along with our federal partners, when we go in, we try to use our various powers with the U.S. Attorney's Office to get the document information, which is a lifeblood for us as IRS criminal investigators, to find out what information is missing and put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Thank you.